I want to, she whispered. I want to know how it feels. His jaw clenched. Feel what? Sex. Silence. Xander exhaled sharply, his hands sliding down to grip her ass firmly. His fingers dug into her skin as he searched her face, his breathing uneven. How the fuck did he, Xander, the ruthless billionaire, end up in this position? Let's rewind to the beginning. Xander Ashford leaned back in his chair, the sharp lines of his custom-made suit barely moving as he turned to look out the large glass windows of his penthouse office. The sprawling New York skyline stretched out before him, lights flickering on as the evening air grew cooler. There was a comfort in the chaos of the city, a sense of control he enjoyed, knowing he could navigate it better than anyone. Ashford Automotive was thriving, expanding into new markets, and cementing his place as one of the most successful CEOs in the world. At just 34, Xander had everything: the cars, the money, the freedom. But freedom meant one thing: no strings attached. Relationships were an inconvenience, and marriage was an idea as far removed from his mind as possible. He wasn't the type to be tied down, especially to someone who didn't understand the demands of his world. The door to his office opened quietly, breaking his thoughts. His mother, Eleanor Ashford, stepped inside, her heels clicking against the polished floors. She was poised, always a picture of grace, but the expression on her face was one that made Xander's stomach tighten. "Xander, we need to talk," she said, her tone firm and unyielding. He sighed, leaning forward in his chair. "I'm not interested in marriage, Mom. I've told you that 1,000 times. Eleanor didn't flinch. "This isn't about what you want. It's about the family's legacy. We need to secure our future, Xander. You know as well as I do that our name carries weight, but it won't last forever if we don't make the right moves." He scowled, tapping a pen against his desk. "And what move is that? Marrying for the sake of a business deal?" Her gaze sharpened. "Exactly." Xander's eyes narrowed, already irritated. "I'm not getting into some arranged marriage just to appease family expectations. You've got to be kidding me." "You're not hearing me out." His mother crossed the room and took a seat across from him. "Your father and I have discussed it, and we've come to an agreement. We've been friends with the Cruz family for years. Their daughter, Athena, is the perfect match for you." "Athena?" Xander repeated, frowning. "How old is she?" 18, his mother replied without hesitation. "She's a strong-willed, independent girl. She has a future ahead of her, and marrying you will solidify both our families. We're doing this for you, Xander." He stared at her in disbelief. "You want me to marry a teenager?" His mother's eyes narrowed slightly. "She's legal, Xander, and she's far from a child. Athena knows her own mind. She's exactly what you need. Wild, rebellious, but also driven. She's already made her mark, just in different ways." Xander leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. "I don't need a rebellious teenager to marry. I don't need any of this." "You'll meet her," Eleanor continued, unbothered by his resistance. "You don't have to like it, but you will. The families expect this, and it will be good for both of us. She'll keep you on your toes, Xander. You might just find her more intriguing than you think." Xander was silent for a moment, weighing her words. He didn't want this. He didn't want anyone telling him what to do, least of all some girl he had to marry for the sake of appearances. But his mother's gaze was unwavering. "I'll set it up. You don't have a choice." Meanwhile, Athena Cruz revved the engine of her motorcycle, the sound roaring to life as she sped down the busy New York streets. The wind whipped through her hair, wild and free, just the way she liked it. The night was young, and she wasn't in the mood to stop any time soon. Her parents were always on her case, pushing her into things she wasn't interested in, but she always found a way to escape. Tonight, that escape was her bike. At just 18, Athena had a reputation, but it wasn't one she cared to change. People thought she was wild, a little too much for her age. She didn't care. She loved living life on her own terms, riding her motorcycle, hanging out with friends, and ignoring the constant pressure to fit into a mold that wasn't hers. She pulled into the parking lot of a local diner, killing the engine and stepping off her bike. Her boots hit the pavement with a satisfying thud as she adjusted her leather jacket and pushed through the door. The diner was warm, a small haven from the chill of the evening air. Athena's eyes scanned the room, spotting a few familiar faces as she made her way to a booth in the back. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, expecting a message from one of her friends. Instead, it was a text from her mother. "Athena, we need to talk. I've arranged a meeting with the Ashfords tomorrow. Be ready." Athena frowned and quickly typed back, "I'm not marrying anyone. Don't even try." But before she could hit send, the reply came in. "It's not about what you want. This is about securing your future. Xander Ashford is a good match. He's someone you should get to know." Athena slammed the phone down onto the table, the sound making a few people glance her way. She didn't care. The last thing she wanted was to marry some rich, cold businessman, especially someone like Xander Ashford. The name was familiar. Everyone knew about the Ashford family and their car empire. Xander was notorious for his bad boy image, a womanizer with no interest in commitment, the kind of guy she wanted nothing to do with. Her mother's obsession with making sure she had a good future was suffocating. Athena was perfectly capable of deciding her own path. She got up, grabbing her leather bag, the tension in her shoulders mounting. "I'm not going," she muttered to herself. "Not happening." The restaurant was extravagant. Gold-trimmed walls, sparkling chandeliers, and soft jazz humming through the air. A place where the rich dined in quiet sophistication, where deals were made over expensive wine, and where tonight an unwanted arrangement was being finalized. Xander Ashford had been here countless times, meeting business partners, entertaining clients, always in control, always calling the shots. But tonight he wasn't in control. Tonight he was here for this, an arranged marriage. He exhaled sharply, drumming his fingers against the polished wooden table, his patience already wearing thin. He had spent the entire day trying to convince his father that this was a ridiculous idea, but like always, Victor Ashford didn't budge. "This isn't up for debate, Xander," his father had said earlier. "You either get married or you lose everything." Everything. His company, his position, his carefully built empire. Xander gritted his teeth and took a slow sip of his whiskey, his jaw tightening as he remembered the threat. "Son, I know you think you don't need this, but trust me, marriage will settle you down." His mother had added, "You can't spend your life drinking, smoking, and sleeping around. It's time to grow up." Grow up? He was a goddamn CEO. He worked harder than anyone he knew, built his company from the ground up, and this was his reward? A forced marriage? And now he was here, waiting for the girl he was supposed to marry, a girl he had no interest in, a girl who, from what little he had heard, was just as wild as he was. The thought almost made him smirk. This should be interesting. Then she walked in. Athena Cruz entered the restaurant with her head held high, her black leather jacket hanging off her shoulders, ripped jeans hugging her legs, and boots clicking against the marble floor. She looked like she didn't belong in a place like this, and yet she owned it. Xander's gaze flickered to her face, full lips painted a deep red, dark eyeliner framing sharp brown eyes, and an expression that screamed, "I don't care." He leaned back, amused. So, this was the girl they wanted him to marry? Athena stopped in front of the table, her arms crossed, eyes scanning the man she was supposed to spend the rest of her life with. He was handsome, annoyingly so. Blonde hair slightly messy, sharp hazel eyes filled with disinterest, and a smirk playing on his lips like he was already bored. Typical rich playboy. Athena rolled her eyes. Great, just great. This is the man you want me to marry, she scoffed, turning to her parents. Athena, her mother warned, forcing a polite smile. What? Athena shrugged, still looking at Xander. He looks like he's in his late 30s. Xander smirked, tilting his glass. 34, he corrected. But nice to know I give off mature energy. She raised an eyebrow. More like old man energy. A low chuckle escaped him. And you look like trouble. Takes one to know one. Their parents exchanged awkward glances as the tension between them thickened. Xander's father cleared his throat. Why don't we all sit down and enjoy dinner first? Athena sighed, but took a seat across from Xander, her posture relaxed, but her expression unreadable. A waiter poured wine into their glasses, but Athena ignored it. She didn't drink with strangers, especially not ones who looked like they made bad decisions for a living. Silence stretched between them as their parents began exchanging pleasantries, talking about business, about how this marriage would be good for both families. Athena barely listened. She was too busy glaring at Xander, who looked way too calm for someone being forced into marriage. You're really okay with this? She finally asked, voice low enough that only he could hear. He raised an eyebrow. Do I look like a man who wants to get married? Athena studied him for a second before scoffing. You look like a man who sleeps around and drinks too much. Xander smirked. Guilty. She narrowed her eyes. Then why are you even here? His smirk faded slightly. He didn't answer right away, taking another sip of his whiskey before setting the glass down with a quiet clink. Because if I don't get married, he said coolly, I lose everything. Athena's fingers twitched. She hadn't expected him to be so blunt, and, unfortunately, she understood exactly how he felt. She wasn't here because she wanted to be. She was here because her parents had given her no choice. Athena, her mother suddenly spoke, drawing attention back to the table. Xander's parents and we have already discussed everything. We believe this is the best decision for you both. Athena clenched her jaw. The best decision? For who? She gritted her teeth, ready to argue, but then she felt it, her father's gaze, heavy with silent warning. Disobeying him was not an option. She glanced at Xander, who was watching her, waiting for her reaction. Athena exhaled sharply and turned back to her parents. And if I say no? Her father's expression remained calm, but his voice carried finality. You won't. Athena's heart pounded. She wanted to fight this, to run, but she knew better. Her parents had already decided, and just like Xander, she had no choice. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Fine, she muttered, picking up the untouched glass of wine and taking a long sip. Let's get married. Xander chuckled, shaking his head. Well, he said, raising his glass toward her, this should be fun. Athena clinked her glass against his, her brown eyes meeting his hazel ones. No, she said with a smirk. It's going to be a nightmare. For the first time that night, Xander actually smiled. This girl might just be as much trouble as him, and for some reason, that only made things more interesting. Athena stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. The white dress fit her perfectly, too perfectly, like it was made just to mock her. She had never imagined herself as a bride, and especially not like this. The lace sleeves clung to her arms, the soft fabric brushing against her legs as if trying to comfort her. But there was no comfort in this. 1 year, she reminded herself, adjusting the heavy necklace her mother had forced onto her. Just 1 damn year. There was a knock at the door, and her mother peeked inside, beaming. Athena, sweetheart, it's time. Athena let out a slow breath, forcing her expression into something neutral. She didn't want to show anyone how much she hated this, how much she wanted to grab her motorcycle keys and disappear into the night. But she wouldn't. Not today. She followed her mother down the hallway, her heels clicking against the polished floor. The private wedding venue was decorated with flowers and candles, warm and elegant, exactly how her parents wanted it. But to her, it felt like a cage. The moment she stepped into the main hall, all eyes turned to her. Xander stood at the altar, looking as cold and unreadable as ever. He wore a black tuxedo, crisp and perfect, but his expression was completely detached. It was like he wasn't even at his own wedding. At least we agree on something. As Athena walked down the aisle, her hands clenched at her sides. Her father held onto her arm proudly, but she barely noticed. Her gaze locked onto Xander's, daring him to show any sign of emotion. He didn't. When she reached the altar, her father placed her hand in Xander's. His grip was firm, his skin slightly rough. It lasted only a second before he let go. The officiant began the ceremony, but Athena barely listened. Words blurred together, something about commitment, love, and forever. None of it meant anything to her. She snuck a glance at Xander. He was staring straight ahead, completely unbothered. Then came the vows. Xander spoke first. I, Xander Ashford, take you, Athena Cruz, as my wife, for better or worse. His tone was flat, almost bored. Athena's jaw tightened. Fine. If he wanted to treat this like a business deal, so would she. I, Athena Cruz, take you, Xander Ashford, as my husband, for better or worse. They exchanged rings, the weight of the jewelry feeling heavier than it should. Then came the words she had been dreading. You may now kiss the bride. Athena stiffened. Xander turned to her, his expression unreadable. For a brief moment, hesitation flickered in his hazel eyes. Just a second, barely there. Then, instead of kissing her lips, he leaned in and pressed a quick kiss to her cheek. The room erupted in soft applause. Athena clenched her fists. It was done. She was now Athena Ashford. The ceremony ended quickly. Close family members congratulated them, and their parents were beaming. Athena could barely keep a polite smile on her face. She stood beside Xander as they greeted the small number of guests. His body radiated indifference, standing just far enough away that they weren't touching. Congratulations, one of Xander's relatives said, shaking his hand before turning to her. You're a lucky woman. Athena almost laughed at the irony. Lucky? Was that what people thought this was? Xander let out a dry chuckle. We'll see. His mother shot him a warning look, but he didn't seem to care. A little later, when the guests were distracted, Xander leaned in close and muttered, 1 year. Then we both walk away. Athena smirked, crossing her arms. Don't worry, Ashford. I'm not the kind of girl who clings. By the time they left the venue, Athena was exhausted. The car ride was silent, and the weight of the day pressed down on her. Xander sat beside her in the back seat, scrolling through his phone like this wasn't the biggest moment of their lives. Busy already? She asked, tilting her head. Unlike you, I actually have a business to run, he said without looking up. Athena scoffed. And unlike you, I don't pretend to care about something that's just a contract. Xander finally glanced at her, his hazel eyes cold. Good. Then we won't have any problems. She rolled her eyes and leaned back against the seat. 1 year. Just 1 year. When they pulled up to the building, Athena was only half surprised by how extravagant it was. Xander lived in a luxury penthouse with a view of the city skyline. Of course he did. He led her inside, barely speaking. The place was spotless, sleek, modern. Xander dropped his suit jacket on the couch and turned to her. Your room is down the hall, first door on the left. Athena raised a brow. Separate rooms? He exhaled sharply. Obviously, we're not actually married. Tell that to the legal documents. Xander's gaze darkened, and he leaned against the counter, swirling the whiskey in his glass before taking a slow sip. Listen, kid. Athena's eyes widened. Excuse me? You heard me. He placed the glass down with a sharp clink. You're 18. I don't even know how this marriage got approved, but I'm not interested in playing house with someone barely out of high school. His tone was cold, final. So let's make one thing clear. I won't touch you. Not now, not ever. Athena's lips curled into a smirk, though irritation burned beneath her skin. Trust me, old man. I'd rather set myself on fire than let you lay a hand on me. Good, he said simply, unfazed by her words. Athena rolled her eyes. I bet you'll be the first one to break the rule. Xander let out a low chuckle, his hazel eyes filled with amusement. Not a chance, sweetheart. I don't do kids. Athena clenched her jaw. Oh, this arrogant bastard. Fine. If he wanted to treat her like some naive little girl, she'd make his life hell. Without another word, she grabbed her suitcase and walked to her new room, slamming the door behind her. 1 year. Just 1 damn year. The sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting a golden glow over the sleek modern bedroom. Athena groaned, burying her face into the pillow. It took her a moment to remember where she was. This wasn't her room. It was his penthouse, her husband's. The reminder alone made her stomach twist in annoyance. She sat up, pushing her messy hair back. No makeup, no effort, just her natural face, still slightly puffy from sleep. She shuffled to the door, pulling it open without much thought. The scent of coffee filled the air, rich and slightly bitter. Xander sat at the dining table, already dressed in a tailored suit. His hair was neatly styled, slicked back with a few strands carelessly falling into place, making him look effortlessly sharp. The watch on his wrist glinted under the morning light as he casually sipped his coffee. Then he looked up. He stared at her blankly at first, then his lips curled into a smirk. Well, wow. He set his coffee down. You literally look like a kid without makeup. Athena's sleepy brain barely processed his words before he continued. Oh, I get it now. You cover your baby face with makeup to look mature, huh? His tone was laced with mockery, his gaze scanning her face with amusement. Her brows twitched in irritation. Shut up. Xander leaned back in his chair, looking thoroughly entertained. No comeback? Guess I hit the truth. Rolling her eyes, she ignored him and walked toward the kitchen. Do I have to make my own breakfast, or do you have a cook? She asked, opening the fridge and scanning its contents. A low chuckle escaped him. Such a princess. This isn't your family's house full of maids. Your parents really spoiled you, huh? Athena slammed the fridge shut and turned to glare at him. I can cook, you know. Xander smirked. Oh, I'd love to see that. The rich brat frying an egg? Sounds entertaining. She exhaled sharply, deciding not to waste her energy arguing. Instead, she grabbed some bread and butter, making herself a simple toast. Xander just watched, sipping his coffee like he was watching a morning show. As she took a bite, she looked at him with narrowed eyes. Why are you still here? Don't you have some CEO thing to do? He raised an eyebrow, checking the time on his watch. I leave when I want. Athena scoffed. Well, don't let me keep you. The door's right there. Xander smirked but said nothing, finishing his coffee before finally standing up. As he adjusted his suit jacket, he shot her one last glance. Don't touch anything in my penthouse. Don't worry, I don't want to touch anything of yours, she shot back. He chuckled under his breath and walked toward the door, grabbing his keys. Oh, and don't forget you're Mrs. Ashford now. Try not to embarrass me. Athena rolled her eyes so hard they nearly got stuck. As the door closed behind him, she muttered, Like I even want to be your wife. After an entire day of wandering around the penthouse, Athena was bored. She had scrolled through her phone, tried watching TV, and even considered cooking just to prove Xander wrong, but she didn't feel like giving him that satisfaction. Instead, she decided to go out and bring her motorcycle over. By the time she returned, the sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the city. She rode into the underground garage of Xander's building, her bike's engine revving as she searched for his reserved space, and when she found it, her jaw nearly dropped. Xander's garage wasn't just a garage, it was a damn luxury car showroom. Rows of sleek high-end cars were neatly lined up, from classic vintage models to brand-new sports cars. Black, silver, and deep midnight blue, each one expensive, polished to perfection, and screaming rich playboy energy. Athena smirked. Of course, Mr. Arrogant had a whole fleet of luxury cars. She could already picture him showing off to women, flashing his money like a badge of honor. But she wasn't here to admire his collection. She had business. She maneuvered her motorcycle right into the middle of his neatly parked cars, sliding it right between his Lamborghini and his Bentley. The contrast was hilarious. A custom black and red motorcycle sitting among his sleek, spotless vehicles. "Perfect," she muttered, turning off the engine. Just as she was about to head back upstairs, she heard footsteps. She turned, only to see Xander standing near the entrance of the garage, still in his work attire, but now with his tie loosened. His eyes traveled over the scene, stopping at her motorcycle, parked right in the middle of his luxury cars. For a moment, there was silence. Then, "What the fuck is that?" he asked, his tone a mix of disbelief and irritation. Athena smirked, crossing her arms. "My bike, obviously." Xander pinched the bridge of his nose, exhaling sharply. "You parked that next to my cars." "Yeah, problem." She tilted her head innocently. He stepped closer, inspecting the motorcycle like it personally offended him. "This is an eyesore in my garage," Athena gasped dramatically. "Oh no! Whatever shall I do?" Then she grinned. "Relax, CEO, it's just a motorcycle." Xander gave her a flat look. "Just a motorcycle? In my garage?" She patted the seat of her bike. "Don't worry, she won't bite your precious cars." Xander sighed, shaking his head. "You're impossible. And you're dramatic." They stood there for a moment, staring each other down, before Xander let out a defeated sigh and turned to leave. "Fine, do what you want, but if that thing scratches one of my cars, you're paying for it." Athena grinned. "Deal." As she walked past him toward the elevator, she couldn't help but chuckle. This was only day one of their marriage, and she was already getting under his skin. This was going to be fun. The soft hum of rain tapped against the penthouse windows, filling the space with a quiet rhythm. Athena sat comfortably at the kitchen counter, slurping a bowl of instant ramen while scrolling through her phone. The warm broth contrasted with the cool air conditioning, making her feel cozy despite the tension in the air. She had only been married for a day, yet this place already felt more like home than it should. Maybe it was because she didn't have to deal with her overbearing parents here. As she took another bite, the sound of footsteps made her glance up. Xander strolled into the kitchen, a white towel wrapped dangerously low around his waist. Droplets of water trailed down his toned chest, catching the light in a way that would have made other women swoon. "Athena?" She just raised an eyebrow and went back to her food. Xander walked to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and twisted the cap off with one hand before taking a long sip. His hazel eyes finally landed on her. "You really make this penthouse feel like your own house, huh?" Athena barely acknowledged him. "So, I live here now too." Xander rolled his eyes, leaning against the counter. "Shh, spoiled brat." Athena finally looked up again, her gaze instinctively flickering down his body before she caught herself. She wasn't blind, and she wasn't about to deny that he had a ridiculously good physique, but it wasn't like she cared. Xander smirked. "What? Like what you see?" she scoffed, setting down her chopsticks. "It's called a natural reaction. Don't flatter yourself." He let out a low chuckle, running a hand through his damp hair. "I know I have a nice body. No need to stare." Athena rolled her eyes. "You're so full of yourself." Xander simply shrugged, clearly enjoying teasing her. Then, as if remembering something, he casually said, "By the way, you should stay in your room later." Athena raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "I'm inviting someone over." His smirk deepened. "Let's just say, we'll be having fun." Athena paused, her grip on her phone tightening. "You're seriously bringing a woman here? The day after our wedding?" He shrugged, completely unbothered. "Our marriage is just a contract, remember? It doesn't change my life." Athena let out a bitter laugh. "Wow, you work fast." Xander tilted his head, his smirk widening. "Jealous?" She shot him a glare. "Of you? Please, you think I care what you do? Then why are you so worked up?" Athena stood up, grabbing her empty bowl and placing it in the sink with a loud clatter. "I'm not. I just don't want to hear whatever disgusting sounds you plan to make tonight." Xander chuckled, clearly entertained. "Good. Then stay in your room and you won't hear a thing." Athena clenched her fists, but forced herself to stay calm. Without another word, she turned on her heel and walked away, her blood boiling. She wasn't jealous, no way, but something about the idea of Xander bringing another woman here, to their space, made her want to smash that stupid smirk right off his face. That evening, Athena tried to distract herself in her room, blasting music through her earbuds as she scrolled through her phone. But it didn't help. The longer she lay there, the more restless she became. Around 9 p.m., she heard the faint chime of the penthouse's front door opening. She didn't have to guess who it was. Curiosity got the best of her. Slipping out of bed, she cracked her door open just enough to see into the living room. Xander stood near the entrance, his posture relaxed as he leaned against the wall, talking to a woman. She was tall, with long, wavy black hair and a body that looked like it belonged on the cover of a magazine. She wore a tight dress, her heels clicking against the floor as she stepped closer to Xander with a sultry smile. Athena's stomach twisted, and she hated herself for it. The woman placed a manicured hand on Xander's chest. "I was surprised when you called me," she purred. "Didn't think I'd hear from you so soon after your wedding." Athena tensed, so the woman knew he was married. Xander chuckled. "You know me. I don't let things like that change my habits." The woman smirked, dragging her fingers down his shirt. "I like that about you." Athena clenched her jaw, stepping back into her room. She shouldn't care. But damn it, why did this feel like a slap to the face? The muffled sound of laughter and soft whispers filled the penthouse. Athena sat on her bed, arms crossed, her patience running thin. She turned the volume up on her phone, trying to block out the noise. But it was no use. Minutes passed, then an hour. Athena had enough. She stormed out of her room, heading straight to the kitchen for a drink, pretending she didn't care about whatever was happening in the living room. But as soon as she stepped out, she locked eyes with Xander and his little guest. The woman sat comfortably on the couch, sipping a glass of wine while Xander leaned back, one arm lazily draped over the back of the sofa. His hazel eyes flicked toward Athena, amused. "Couldn't sleep, princess?" he taunted. Athena ignored him, opening the fridge to grab a bottle of water. She could feel the woman's eyes on her, as if sizing her up. "She's cute," the woman said, smiling playfully. "Your wife, right?" Xander smirked. "Legally, yeah." Athena gritted her teeth. The way he said it, so careless, so indifferent, made her want to throw the bottle at his head. "How does it feel being married to a man like Xander?" the woman asked, curiosity in her tone. Athena turned to her, forcing a smirk. "Oh, it's great. I barely have to see him, and when I do, I get free entertainment watching him act like a teenage boy who just discovered women." Xander's smirk faltered for a split second before he chuckled. "Feisty tonight, aren't we?" Athena took a sip of her water. "Just stating facts," the woman laughed. I like her." Athena rolled her eyes. "Good for you." Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked back to her room, slamming the door behind her. Xander shook his head, watching her disappear. "She's got a temper," the woman commented. Xander smirked, swirling the wine in his glass. "She'll get over it." But for some reason, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this time, he had pushed a little too far. Athena lay sprawled on her bed, phone in hand, mindlessly scrolling through posts she wasn't even paying attention to. Her earbuds were in, music blasting at full volume, anything to drown out the noise of him. She already knew what was happening outside her room. The moment she heard the front door open and the sharp click of high heels on the floor, she sighed and shoved her earbuds in deeper. She had expected this. Xander was exactly the kind of man to bring random women home without a second thought. Not her business. She wasn't his wife in the real sense. Just a contract. Just a name on a marriage certificate. She didn't care what he did. At least, that's what she told herself. She turned the volume up even more. The heavy bass pounded in her ears, drowning out the world. For a while, it worked. Until... "Ah, Xander! Yes!" Athena's fingers froze on her phone screen. She squeezed her eyes shut and pressed the earbuds deeper, flipping to another song, something louder, something to erase that voice. But no matter how loud the music was, she could still hear it. Yes, again! A chill of discomfort crept down her spine. This penthouse was huge. He had multiple rooms. He even had a perfectly good bedroom. So why on earth were they doing this out in the open? Athena sat up, her heartbeat pounding, her jaw clenched as she tossed her phone aside. The noise was getting louder. She could hear the rhythm now, movement, muffled sounds, Xander's voice occasionally breaking through. A flush crept to her face, not from embarrassment but pure frustration. He's such a jerk. She swung her legs off the bed and stormed toward the door. At first, she hesitated. Did she really want to see? But her body moved on its own, hand gripping the doorknob. With a sharp breath, she twisted it just enough to peek through. And there he was, Xander Ashford, shirtless, close with some brunette woman in the middle of the living room. Athena's stomach churned. Xander's back was tense. He looked completely absorbed in the moment, acting like no one else was around. "Seriously?" Athena muttered under her breath. The woman giggled loudly, making Athena flinch, her hands clenched into fists. What the heck? It's not like she hadn't expected this. She knew what kind of man he was. But this, out in the open, no privacy, no respect, like she didn't even exist? A bitter taste filled her mouth. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. But then why did her stomach feel like it was tied in knots? Why did she feel so furious? "Harder, baby, please," the woman squealed. Athena snapped. She slammed her door shut, hard enough to shake the walls. For a second, silence. Then, Xander chuckled, a deep, amused laugh. Athena's face burned. Oh, he thought this was funny. She stormed to her nightstand, yanked out her earbuds, and replaced them with heavy-duty headphones. She maxed out the volume. But even then, she could still feel the vibrations from the other room. She threw herself onto the bed and buried her face in her pillow. I should have stayed at my parents' house. Athena pressed the headphones tighter, trying to block it all out. But even at full volume, she could still sense everything: the creak of the couch, the muffled voices, the laugh that made her chest twist in frustration. She shut her eyes tight, willing herself to ignore it. It doesn't matter. I don't care. He can do whatever he wants. But the anger didn't go away. It sat in her chest like a rock. It wasn't jealousy. No way. It was pure, burning rage. Rage at how he treated her like she didn't matter. This was her home too. And he acted like she was invisible. "Oh my God, Xander, right there!" Athena growled under her breath. She ripped off the headphones and sat up, fists trembling. She had two choices. 1. Endure it like some quiet, helpless girl. 2. Let him know exactly how she felt. Her fingers twitched toward the second option. She wasn't weak. She wasn't going to take this lying down. Without hesitation, she threw her pillow at the door. Bang! A loud thud echoed. Silence. Then, huh! Athena froze. That jerk. He laughed. She clenched her jaw, fists curling into the sheets. The noise resumed, louder this time, and worse. He was doing it on purpose. "Yeah, baby, you like that?" His voice was mocking. He wanted her to hear. Athena saw red. She marched across the room, grabbed her phone, and cranked her speaker to the max. One button press, and the sound of roaring motorcycle engines blared through the penthouse. Xander's biggest weakness? His sensitive hearing. Athena smirked, arms folded across her chest. If he wanted to be inconsiderate, she could play that game too. Seconds later, tsh! The noise stopped. A few footsteps. A muttered curse. Then, finally, blessed silence. Athena exhaled sharply. Finally. She turned the volume down and tossed her phone onto the bed. Victory. But it didn't last, because moments later, her door flew open. Xander stood there, still shirtless, hair damp, frustration radiating from every muscle. The other woman was nowhere in sight, but his stormy eyes were locked on her. Athena raised an eyebrow, pretending not to notice his toned abs or intense expression. "What the heck was that?" he snapped. She leaned back into her pillows, smirking. "What do you mean?" "Turn that noise off." "Oh, now you care about noise," she said with mock surprise. "And here I thought you were having the time of your life." His eyes narrowed. Athena didn't flinch. Then he smirked. "Jealous?" She snorted. "Of what? Your awful taste in company?" He chuckled, stepping farther inside. "Admit it." She folded her arms. "The only thing I admit is that you're an inconsiderate jerk." Xander clicked his tongue, watching her for a moment before ruffling his damp hair. "You're gonna have to get used to it, wife." He emphasized the word with mock affection. Athena's nails dug into her arms. "Right, 1 year, that's all." His smirk deepened. "Try not to fall in love with me by then." She grabbed the nearest thing, a book, and flung it at him. He dodged easily, laughing as he walked back into the hallway. Athena glared at his retreating figure. 1 year. Just 1 year. She could survive this. Right? The morning after the disaster that was last night, Athena woke up feeling irritated, not just because of the memory of Xander's loud activities, but because of the way he had mocked her about it, the way he had smirked, teased, and acted like he owned the place. Okay, fine, it was his penthouse, but still, she was this close to punching him last night. Rolling out of bed, she grabbed an oversized hoodie and shuffled to the door. The second she pulled it open, a sharp thud landed at her feet. Frowning, she looked down to find a thick red folder sitting on the floor with her name printed neatly on the front in bold, expensive ink. Flipping it open, her eyes skimmed over the title, Marriage Terms and Conditions. Her eyebrow twitched. He seriously made a contract for this? Before she could even process the absurdity, a deep voice interrupted her. "Finally awake, princess!" Her head snapped up. Xander was lounging on the couch, shirtless again, wearing only gray sweatpants. His toned arms rested along the back of the couch, a cup of coffee in one hand. His hair was damp, like he had just showered. She hated how relaxed he looked while she was still fuming. "What the hell is this?" She held up the contract. Xander sipped his coffee like he had all the time in the world. "Read it." Her eye twitched. Arrogant bastard. She plopped down at the kitchen counter, flipping through the pages. 1. This marriage will last 1 year. 2. In public, we must act like a real married couple. 3. No interfering in each other's personal lives. 4. No touching in private or public. Athena blinked. "Why do you care so much about this rule?" Xander smirked. "Because you're a kid." Her blood boiled. "I'm 18, asshole," she snapped. He leaned forward, eyes glinting with amusement. "Exactly. A baby." She grabbed the closest thing, his coffee mug, and threw it at him. Xander caught it midair, completely unfazed. Temper. "I hate you," she muttered, signing the contract anyway. Xander smirked. "Good girl." She stood up so fast the chair screeched. "Don't call me that," he chuckled, sipping his coffee. "Whatever you say, wifey." Athena stormed off to her room, already regretting this entire situation. A few hours later, she found herself at Xander's parents' house. Not by choice. Her mother had dragged her along for some family bonding nonsense, which really just meant listening to Xander's mother talk about how much she wanted grandkids. Athena sat stiffly in the grand living room, sipping tea while Mrs. Ashford smiled at her. "You should come over more often, dear," she said sweetly. "Xander isn't too difficult to live with, is he?" Athena almost choked on her tea. Difficult was an understatement, but she forced a smile. "Oh, he's fine." Mrs. Ashford beamed. "I'm glad to hear that. You know, Xander has always been so stubborn. It's nice to have a woman around to balance him out." Athena bit her tongue. "I am not balancing out anything. Your son is an insufferable asshole." Instead, she nodded and sipped her tea. By the time she got back to the penthouse, she was exhausted. She tossed her bag on the bed and opened her closet, pulling out her school uniform. Her eyes narrowed at the navy blazer and pleated skirt. Why did they have to make me marry him this year? She groaned, throwing herself onto the bed. They couldn't even wait until I graduated. Before she could spiral deeper into her frustration, her phone rang. Mia. Athena sat up and answered. "Yeah." "Athena, let's go out," Mia said excitedly. "It's our last weekend before school starts." Al's voice chimed in the background. "Let's get drinks." Athena smirked. Now that sounded like a good idea. "Where are we going?" she asked. Mia giggled. "That bar downtown, the one with the motorcycles parked outside." Athena grinned. She loved that place. "Give me 30 minutes, she said, already getting up. She changed into leather short skirt, a black cropped hoodie, and laced up her combat boots. Walking over to her vanity, she applied her usual bold makeup, dark eyeliner, and deep red lipstick. Then she grabbed her motorcycle keys. Stepping into the garage, she took a moment to admire her baby, her black and red Ducati, parked right in the middle of Xander's luxury car collection. A Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a Rolls-Royce, a McLaren. Every expensive car brand she could think of. Typical rich bastard. Shaking her head, she threw on her leather jacket, slid onto her bike, and revved the engine. The sound echoed through the garage, loud and untamed, exactly how she liked it. Before speeding off, she glanced at Xander's penthouse window. "Let's see if you like being the one losing sleep tonight." And with that, she hit the throttle, leaving the penthouse far behind. Athena pulled on her black helmet, the tinted visor hiding her face, as she swung her leg over her motorcycle. The moment she twisted the throttle, the deep roar of the engine filled the air, sending a shiver of excitement down her spine. The city lights blurred as she sped down the road, weaving effortlessly between cars. The helmet didn't take away the thrill. In fact, it made her feel even more untouchable, like nothing in the world could stop her. This was her freedom, her escape. No Xander, no contract, no suffocating expectations. Just speed, adrenaline, and the road stretching endlessly ahead. There was nothing quite like the feeling of speed, the rush of adrenaline, the brief illusion of freedom. It wasn't just about getting to the bar, it was about escaping, if only for a little while. The suffocating contract, Xander's arrogant smirk, the fact that she was supposed to be some wife now. She hated it. She wasn't just running toward a night of fun. She was running away from the suffocating contract, from the reality of her forced marriage, from Xander's smug face. The thought of him sitting comfortably in his high-rise office while she was out here, reclaiming a piece of her old life, made her smirk. By the time she pulled up outside the bar, Mia and Ale were already waiting, their helmets tucked under their arms. "Took you long enough," Mia called, grinning. "Thought you got caught by your husband." Athena rolled her eyes as she parked. "Please, he doesn't control me." Al smirked. "Good, then let's get wasted." Athena grinned. Now that is a plan. The night had spiraled out of control, and Athena wasn't sure when she'd lost count of how much she'd had to drink. It started innocently enough. 1 shot, then 2, then 3. A cocktail followed, then beer, and finally another shot, spurred on by Ale's daring challenge. Now she found herself slumped over a sticky bar counter, lazily swirling the last dregs of her drink. Her eyes were half-lidded, her brain foggy, and the world around her a hazy blur. The club pulsed with a thumping bass and flashing neon lights, but Athena barely registered any of it. All she knew was the warmth spreading through her limbs, the heaviness in her body, and the gentle spin in her head that made everything feel oddly funny. A giggle escaped her lips as she blinked slowly, lost in her own drunken haze. "Athena, you're done," Mia sighed, nudging her shoulder gently. Athena lifted her head sluggishly, slurring, "No, I'm not," before dramatically waving a hand and lazily pointing at the bartender. "One more." But the older man with graying hair didn't even glance her way. "You're cut off," he declared flatly. Athena pouted. "Rude," Al snorted beside her. "Athena, if you drink any more, you'll be crawling out of here." Athena waved a hand dismissively. "Pfft, I can handle." Her words cut off as she tilted too far to the side, nearly toppling over. Mia caught her just in time. "Yeah, no, you're done." Athena giggled again, her voice slurring with affection. "I love you, Mia. You're so nice." Mia rolled her eyes. "You only say that when you're wasted." Ale groaned, pulling out her phone. "All right, time to call your mom." Athena's eyes widened in panic as she weakly slapped Ale's arm. "No, Ali, don't call my mom." Mia smirked. "Too late." Athena whined, flopping her head onto the counter. "This is a betrayal. I trusted you." 30 minutes later, Athena stood outside the bar, the cool night air making her shiver as she swayed slightly. She crossed her arms dramatically. "I don't need a babysitter." Ale smirked. "Oh, you'll love this." Mia leaned in with a grin. "Guess who your mom called?" Athena frowned. "Who?" "Your husband," Mia replied with a teasing lilt. Athena's stomach dropped. "You're lying." Mia giggled. "Nope." Another 30 minutes passed, and Ale checked her phone. "And oh look, he's here." Athena whipped around just as a sleek black car pulled up. The door opened, and out stepped Xander Ashford, looking ridiculously expensive, even in a casual black shirt and grey pants. His hair was tousled as if he'd just woken up, and his sharp hazel eyes scanned the scene with barely hidden irritation. Athena groaned. "No, not him." Xander leaned against the car, arms crossed. You look like shit, wifey. Athena stuck her tongue out at him. And you look like an asshole. Mia and Al burst out laughing. Xander sighed, rubbing his temples. Get in the car, Athena. She pouted. I don't wanna. Now, he said firmly. She stomped her foot. Make me. Xander took one step forward and she squeaked, bolting into the passenger seat. Mia snickered. She's so easy. Al grinned. Good luck, Mr. Ashford. Athena hummed to herself, her fingers playing with the buttons on the car door. Stop that, Xander muttered, glancing at her. She giggled. Bossy? He sighed. You're ridiculous. She turned her head dramatically. Am not. He smirked. You're slurring your words. You're definitely ridiculous. Athena huffed, crossing her arms. I'm still a virgin, you know. The car swerved slightly as Xander slammed the brakes, pulling to the side of the road. What the hell, Athena? She blinked up at him innocently. What? Xander dragged a hand down his face. Why would you say that? She leaned in conspiratorially. Because I was thinking, right? Like, some people do it so easily. But I never did. Never even tried. Isn't that crazy? Xander's jaw clenched. This is not a conversation I want to have with my drunk wife at 2 a.m. Do you use protection? She asked abruptly. Oh my God, he groaned. Athena giggled again, swaying slightly. You're all serious and cold, but I bet in bed you're like... Stop, Xander interrupted. She burst into laughter. You're blushing, he groaned. I should have left you at that damn bar. By the time they got home, Athena was barely conscious. Xander parked, got out, and walked to her side. Come on, inside. She blinked up at him, smiling sleepily. Carry me. He scoffed. Not happening. She yawned. Then I'll sleep here. Xander sighed. Unbelievable. Without another word, he lifted her up effortlessly. She snuggled against his chest, murmuring, you smell nice. Xander clenched his jaw, ignoring the strange feeling in his chest. He carried her inside, dropping her onto the bed, not too gently. She groaned. Rude, he tossed a blanket over her. Go to sleep, Athena. She cracked an eye open, smirking lazily. You're kinda nice when you're not being a dick. Xander scoffed. Whatever. As he walked away, he heard her soft whisper. Thanks for coming. He paused. Athena was curled up on the bed, half buried under the blanket, her cheek pressed against the pillow. Her makeup was slightly smudged, her lips parted in sleep, and despite the mess she'd been just moments ago, she looked peaceful. Xander exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Why the hell did he care? She was just his problem for a year. That was it. A nuisance. A reckless, stubborn, loud-mouthed brat who made his life unnecessarily difficult. And yet, he reached down, pulling the blanket up over her shoulder. Athena shifted slightly, a sleepy mumble escaping her lips. Warm. Xander rolled his eyes at himself and turned off the bedside lamp before finally leaving. This was a mistake. A big, big mistake. Athena groaned as she stirred awake, her head pounding like a damn jackhammer. The taste of alcohol lingered in her mouth, and her throat felt dry as hell. Squinting against the morning light, she blinked, trying to figure out where the hell she was. Her room. She exhaled in relief. At least she hadn't woken up in some ditch. But how did she even get here? The last thing she remembered was drinking with Mia and Ale. And then... Oh no. Her body shot up from the bed. That traitor had called Xander. Shit, she muttered, pushing her messy hair back. She still reeked of alcohol. Disgusted, she kicked off the clothes from last night and rushed to the bathroom, stripping off everything. The hot water felt like heaven against her skin. She scrubbed herself down, trying to wash away both the smell and the embarrassment. She had gotten wasted, Bad. And worst of all, Xander had picked her up. By the time she stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her head was still spinning, not just from the hangover, but from the mortifying things she might have said. She quickly put on a fresh t-shirt and shorts, tying her damp hair up in a messy bun. Then, with a deep breath, she stepped out of her room, heading straight for the kitchen. And there he was, Xander Ashford, sitting at the kitchen counter, dressed in a sleek black suit, hair perfectly styled, and holding a steaming cup of coffee like he was some goddamn movie villain. The second he saw her, a slow, knowing smirk spread across his lips. "So you're a virgin?" Athena froze mid-step, her blood running cold. "What the hell?" she snapped, glaring at him. Xander raised an eyebrow, taking a sip of his coffee, clearly amused. "What? You're the one who said it last night." Her stomach dropped. Oh no, her drunk brain, her goddamn drunk brain. She had said some shit last night, hadn't she? She narrowed her eyes, crossing her arms. "You're lying," Xander chuckled. "Oh, sweetheart, I wish I was. But you were very vocal about it." He tilted his head, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Something about how you've never done anything before, but sometimes you're curious?" Athena's face burned. I never said that." "Oh, but you did," he said smoothly, placing his coffee down. "You were quite the chatterbox, telling me all your little secrets. Very entertaining." She wanted to die. Right here, right now. "Shut up," she muttered, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. Xander leaned back in his chair, watching her. "Relax, princess. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's kinda cute, actually." Her head snapped toward him. "Don't call me that." His smirk widened. "What? Cute?" She groaned, taking a big gulp of water to avoid throwing something at him. Xander stood up, fixing his suit. "Anyway, I have a meeting. Try not to get wasted again, yeah? I might not always be there to save your ass." Athena glared at him. "I don't need you to save me." He smirked, walking past her. "Keep telling yourself that, baby girl." And with that, he left, leaving Athena standing there, still burning with embarrassment. She groaned, slamming her forehead against the fridge. She was never drinking again. Hours passed. Xander was gone, probably doing whatever rich CEO men did in their fancy offices. Athena lounged on the couch, flipping through TV channels, still thinking about how humiliating her morning was. She was eating there in his living room, still annoyed at the fact that she had exposed herself in front of Xander last night. Her phone buzzed. A text. Xander. "Don't mess up my living room." Athena widened her eyes, looking around. How the hell did he know? Before she could even process it, another text came through. "Xander. What are you looking around for, huh?" Her jaw dropped. She quickly typed back. Athena. "You stalking me, old man?" His reply was instant. Xander. "For what? You think I'm interested in you?" Athena scowled at her screen. Athena. "Then how do you know what I'm doing?" A few seconds later, another text appeared. Xander. "I put CCTV in my penthouse. Don't try to mess with my stuff." Athena nearly threw her phone. CCTV. This asshole had cameras watching her? She typed furiously. Athena. "You creep! You're spying on me!" Xander. "Relax, princess. I don't have time to watch you, but don't just sit there. Shouldn't you be cooking for me by now?" Her eye twitched. Athena. "Cook for you? Please, ugh!" Another text came through. It was a picture. Her eyebrows furrowed as she opened it. Her jaw dropped. It was a screenshot of her mom texting Xander. Athena's mom. "Athena can cook for you, right? She knows how to make good food." Athena wanted to scream. "For what?" she yelled at her phone. Xander sent one last message. Xander. "Get to work, wife." Athena stared at the screen. Then, she grabbed the closest pillow and screamed into it. Athena groaned as her phone buzzed loudly on the coffee table. She was curled up on the couch, flipping through random TV channels, when her mother's name flashed on the screen. She sighed, already sensing trouble. Pressing the phone to her ear, she barely had time to say hello before her mother's sharp voice cut through. "Athena, why haven't you cooked for your husband?" Athena blinked. "What?" "Don't what me. Xander told me you've left him starving. What kind of wife does that?" Athena's jaw clenched. "That damn bastard." "He has hands, doesn't he?" she snapped. "He can cook for himself." "Athena!" her mother gasped like she had just committed a crime. "You made a vow, young lady. You're his wife now, and it's your responsibility to take care of him." Athena rolled her eyes so hard they almost got stuck. "You do realize this is a fake marriage, right?" "I don't care. Cook for him, now." And just like that, the call ended. Athena let out an exasperated groan and threw her phone onto the couch. Great. Just great. Her mother and father hadn't even mentioned her motorcycle being there. Now she had no ride. Muttering curses under her breath, she begrudgingly ordered a grab and made her way to Ashford Automotives, Xander's company. As soon as she stepped into the massive glass building, she immediately felt out of place. She was in a hoodie, short pants, and sneakers, and everyone else looked like they belonged on a magazine cover. Heads turned. "Who is that?" "She's pretty, but why is she dressed like that?" "Wait, is she—" Athena ignored the whispers and made a beeline for the elevator. When she finally reached Xander's office, she swung the door open without knocking and froze. Xander was leaning against his desk, his secretary inches away from his lips. Athena raised an eyebrow. "Wow, a different girl now?" The secretary practically jumped back, face turning pale. Mr. Ashford, I'll take my leave." She scurried out of the room so fast that Athena almost laughed. Xander sighed, rubbing his temple. "Do you ever knock?" Athena smirked, placing the lunchbox on his desk. "Do you ever keep it in your pants?" His lips curled into a smirk. "Jealous?" She rolled her eyes. "Please, I'd rather set myself on fire." Xander chuckled, plopping down on his chair. He glanced at the lunchbox. "What's this?" "Your damn lunch. Now eat it and stop whining to my mum." Xander opened the box, inhaling the scent of garlic and butter. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Athena crossed her arms. "What? Never had home-cooked food before?" He took a bite, and for a second, something flashed in his eyes. Satisfaction? Surprise? Athena couldn't tell. Then, as if catching himself, he smirked. "Not bad, wife," she scoffed. "Don't call me that." Xander leaned back in his chair, still chewing. "Make sure you cook dinner, too." Athena's jaw dropped. "Excuse me?" He shrugged. "You started it. Might as well keep going." Athena wanted to strangle him. Instead, she turned on her heels and stormed out. Xander chuckled behind her. He was having way too much fun with this. At night, Athena spent the rest of the day lounging in the penthouse. She swore she wouldn't cook dinner just because he expected her to. But as the hours passed, her stomach betrayed her, grumbling loudly. Ugh. She opened the fridge, debating whether she should just make something for herself. But then she remembered Xander's stupid smirk at the office and gritted her teeth. "I'll cook, but not for him. Just for me." She decided on spicy ramen with soft-boiled eggs and grilled chicken. It smelled amazing. Just as she was about to take her first bite, a shadow loomed over her. Xander stood leaning against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, eyes locked onto her bowl. "You only made food for yourself?" he asked, raising a brow. Athena didn't even look at him. "Yup." Silence. Then he walked over to the cabinet, grabbed a bowl, and sat across from her. "What are you doing?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. He smirked. Sharing. Before she could stop him, he took half of her noodles like it was the most normal thing in the world. Hey! Athena scowled. Xander twirled the noodles around his chopsticks, completely unfazed. If you're gonna cook, at least make enough for two. Athena glared. I didn't cook for you. He took a bite, his lips curled. Well, too bad, he said casually. It's good. She clenched her jaw, watching him eat like he owned the damn meal. This man was infuriating. To be continued. Like and comment next if you want the next episode. This is Mr. Hope. Thank you all for watching.